Hi, everyone. This is Arry, Chair of the Cascadia Blockchain Council and the Swiss Blockchain Coalition, and also your host. We had a really great series of panels on October 18th, and it was really good to talk to the builders of Web3 and AI, the educators of Web3 and AI, the use cases of Web3 and AI, and also talk about policy here in Washington State, and also do a fireside chat with Dr. Brigitta Beniewski around healthcare and emerging technologies. I think that was like one of the best fireside chats I've had in a very, 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 very long time. So I hope you really enjoyed this. Let us know if there's anything that we can do to help or if there are any topics you want us to cover. And enjoy. Together we rise. Bye.
Well, welcome everybody to AI and Web3 in the Pacific Northwest. There's some amazing things taking place here in Seattle, Bellevue, and the greater Pacific Northwest. So it's really exciting to have you all here with us today. And this is a collaborative effort between WTIA, Cascadia Blockchain Coalition or Council. I don't know why I said coalition now. NIFMN and TF Labs. So really excited to have Arry and Nick here, and I'll let them also introduce themselves as well. I feel like a lot of you know me already, but I'm Jonathan, and I do Web3 things.
All right, I'm Nick with the Washington Tech Industry Association. I think know most of you, but if we've not met yet, come introduce yourself. I'm generally friendly, I think. So I work with Arry to run the blockchain work at WTIA. Broadly, we have a cluster funded through the State Department of Commerce focused on advanced technologies and basically ensuring the Pacific Northwest is a leader in the future of emerging technologies with near-term focuses in Web3, quantum, and AI. Then the other half of my job is working with startups, so that's how I know at least a few other folks in the room. And yeah, otherwise from Seattle. So I'm biased, but I think this should be the best tech ecosystem in the world, and let's go do it.
Amen. And then I'm Arry Yu. I chair the Cascadia Blockchain Council. We started this in 2018 working with the WTIA, the largest technology industry association in North America, as it should be. And so we have a lot of great things that we should take advantage of here in the Pacific Northwest, in addition to the trees, the mountains, the oceans, and all the great quality of life we have here. We have a lot of great technologists and innovators and investors and builders and then some, and the long history here. And so I think also pairing that with the wholesome heart, because I think we're not very good at marketing as much, but we have a lot of good work and a lot of good people here. And so the Cascadia Blockchain Council is about being that one voice as we talk to regulators, policymakers on the advocacy and education side. We are going to be renewing and redoing our steering committee next year, because a lot of folks are terming out. And so if you'd like to be a part of the Cascadia Blockchain Council, help with testimonials in Olympia, be on a panel, provide use cases, help bring community together, we'd love to have you be a part of it, and hope to see you soon. And thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy days and helping us share this content and great knowledge the speakers will be sharing with us.
Definitely want to echo just how important Seattle is as a region. Obviously everybody knows about the big companies that were growing here, Microsoft and Amazon and Boeing, but there's a tremendous amount of startups, young companies that are doing really interesting things in Web3, really interesting things in AI. I was talking about this when I was in Austin for Permissionless. Like, Seattle has a really rich history with blockchain that a lot of people just don't realize. Like, everything from different professors at University of Washington influencing blockchain to Mount Gox was going to actually do before the Mount Gox debacle, they were going to have their U.S. outfit here in Seattle, for example. So there's like a lot of really rich history. Perkins Coie is a firm based here they did a lot with a lot of early emerging blockchain companies as well. So
Eric Voorhees from Tacoma.
Eric Voorhees,
right?
Exactly. So and he's all mentioned in a lot of like the early conversations, right? So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting people. Maybe we should do one day we'll do like a history of Seattle
Yeah,
blockchain.
Joseph Poon, Lightning Network, right?
Yeah.
UW.
Yeah, Scott Stornetta, he's
Right.
not from here, but his son went to UW here, and so like he was here a lot for like he's mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper.
First ICO was Jared
Jared Willett.
Willett, yes.
Yep, who's based here. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting companies. You know, the Bitcoin ATMs with CoinMe, like they did a lot for the region as well. So well, yeah, let's kick it off then. And you want to introduce our first guest?
Yeah, so first panelist will be around builders in Web3 and AI. So I'd like to welcome Lennox, talking about Starbucks, and who's the second one? Oh, Joe Honan from ULedger, and Sarah will be moderating this panel.
Sarah, where are you? Here.
I'll take whatever. I'll sit on the edge. I always have nightmares about falling off these stools. I'm notoriously clumsy. So everyone close your eyes for a minute until I'm settled. Made it. Hi, all right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. I think it would be great to just kind of introduce our panelists really quick. Tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, where you're working, what you're doing in this space. Lennox?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. So, Lennox Matsinde, been in the Web3 space via crypto since 2017. Came in as a day trader and just kind of been riding the wave since then. I also run a small crypto startup. We provide portfolio automation solutions for crypto investors. And I also lead some emerging tech initiatives for Starbucks, primarily in the blockchain, generative AI, and immersive experience space. So, yeah, excited to be here. Originally from Southern Africa, been in America for like 12 years now, so that's a little fun fact. But yeah, kick it to you, Joe.
Very good. Joe Honan, born and bred over in West Seattle near Alki Beach. So moved away as soon as I could drive south and cut my teeth in Silicon Valley for a long time because it wasn't that big of a tech scene up here. But been back here for the last 10 or so years. You know, Northwest roots grow deep, even though I'm in my Johnny Cash outfit. Usually it's blue and green for me.
Very slick.
But I've been in the quote unquote blockchain space since 2013, 14. You know, and did, like many people, did the all in, oh my God, I'm out. You know, when Bitcoin was $350 a coin, and you know, and gone through all of those cycles, and really got involved in the space. Had a startup that we grew up into a pretty good size company, sold, and really, you know, said, what do I want to do for this next phase of my career? And saw all these young, innovative companies that really had great technology, but not a lot of experience from a business standpoint. And so got involved with a lot of the young technology companies, whether it was in the you know, digital object space like Engine and others, or obviously in the crypto space. And we, you know, as we always say, you know, the Gartner hype cycle, that trough of disillusionment, everybody thinks that just happens once. It actually happens several times, right? Kind of your stacking S curve. And so, you know, it's been a fun experience to go through that. So I run a company called ULedger. We're focused on data integrity solutions, blockchain platform. We really sit at the intersection of AI, machine learning, data, and blockchain. And so my mission is to really focus on how do we mainstream blockchain and the connective technologies, generative AI, machine learning, and so on, and mainstream it like any other technology versus this kind of external degen kind of scenario where you know, it can become part of every business, become part of every family, every individual, and that's what our mission is. I like to say I'm in the truth business, but you know, without being hyperbolic, really, you know, I see blockchain, data integrity, machine learning, et cetera, as the real connective tissue into this whole new generation, whether we call it Web3 or any other term, the way that business will be done, you know, going forward.
Wow. Just a quick question. So with ULedger, is it end-to-end users or is it data storage? Can you?
Yeah. So we're focused on building, and taking the complexity and challenge out of blockchain. So we're a layer 0, 1, 2 blockchain platform, as well as an application market. We're building an application marketplace. We're not there yet, but really taking that idea, how can you point your data at us or us at your data without hiring armies of consultants or having to deploy complex hyperledger based infrastructures or other things. Don't get me wrong, I think those are all great technologies and have their place, but how can it be easy for anybody? And particularly for the businesses that are the small and mid-market businesses that don't have these giant, I don't know, but these giant R&D budgets or abilities to experiment with global SIs and so on. But how can you get that kind of promise of data integrity through blockchain and Web3 without that, that need to have tokens or carry crypto on the balance sheet or armies of consultants that never transfer the knowledge and so on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like to hear that you said that the ebbs and flows are kind of normal and that, we're going to get out of this. So that's comforting to hear as well.
Anybody in the AI cycle, your turn's coming, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah McCarter. So what do I do? So I'm head of growth with a startup company called Venity, but I also do a lot of consulting for Web3 events here in Seattle. I never really set out to be in events, but it kind of seems to be where I'm going. I care a lot about community. I don't pretend to be a tech person, but I do really love that I think Web3, AI, the future of disruptive technology, is for everybody, and with mass onboarding, that even the non-tech folk need to be represented. So here I am. If you have questions, I really hope that everyone here feels comfortable to reach out, ask questions, have snacks. It's obviously we're a smaller group today, but the Northwest, Seattle, right? We were the beginning of the tech buzz. Like, this is where we should be growing. And the only way that we're gonna do that is if we all come together and work on that together. So Lennox, I know that you're working on Web3 in Starbucks and you also have your own project. What is the name of your company again?
Satoshi's Index.
Satoshi's Index. So where do your Web3 AI priorities lie right now?
Personally, corporately, as a startup founder, like which?
Okay, so let's talk about Starbucks right now, because I think that's kind of exciting to hear big brands come in. Where are they looking? Where are they hoping to go with Web3 and particularly AI?
Yeah, I will preface this by saying I do not speak on behalf of the company. I did not get permission to come and do this. Public affairs will get me in trouble. So these views are my own. So right now, what I get to do is figure out how we leverage blockchain technology across the entire enterprise vertical. So everything from payments, internal employee engagement, just driving incremental revenue spend using gamification and stuff like that. That's essentially how we're viewing Web3. So obviously we're out of the hype cycle, at least the first phase of the hype cycle, with NFTs and all that kind of stuff. And I've been very vocal for a while now about utility, like from the jump, like what is it we can actually do with these NFTs, with these smart contracts. So looking at it from an enterprise perspective, it's never been about the hype. It's about what kind of efficiencies can we drive leveraging blockchain. So that's some of the exciting work that we're doing. And then I think AI is just an extension of that same concept, where every Fortune 500, every large brand is kind of scrambling to put together a strategy to how might we leverage this technology to, again, just increase efficiencies, right? Optimize some of our processes, and yeah, we're no different. It's just looking across the board, what use cases make sense. So that's where I get to spend a lot of my time.
What about with you, Ledger? Obviously, you're deeply involved in Web3. How is AI affecting your business model and your future goals?
Yeah, yes, it is, right? So how do you? I'll take it in two ways. How do you evolve yourself out of a single technology focus, right? How do we talk about what the the use case of the problem that we're trying to solve is versus the feature functionality difference between ULedger and any other blockchain, right? So our focus on AI is similar. How can we use AI to make what we do more efficient, better? Can we auto scale? All of those kinds of things that are kind of on the internal side of utilizing AI. But really for us, you know, and what I'm definitely passionate about on that intersection of data, AI, and blockchain is how can we take some of the challenges that have been there, particularly around smart contracts and you know, the insecurity, if you will, of most of the smart contracts that we see that are based upon overly reused code out there and so on. How can we use, you know, AI to allow you as a non-technical person be able to describe what you want the smart contract to do and then have AI go write it for you, right, in an audible way. We're working on natural language smart contracts and things like that. So how can we use AI to actually make the technology work better for people who aren't, you know, software devs or you know, Solidity programmers and things like that. So you know, I think that's the one big side. Now, what I'm really interested in is how can we surface insights within the Web3 community through AI, machine learning, and so on, because we think of transactions, you know, blockchain is the world of transactions, right? And hashes and encryption and data privacy and so on. But where are those data insights that machine learning and AI can help us get, whether it's trends or whether it's actual, you know, your own private data and being able to get into that. So I think, you know, it's certainly here to stay. I think AI is part of every business, or needs to be part of every business in the way that you think of building your products, running your business, being efficient, and so on. But you know, again, it's probably a theme we'll hear today. How do we use it to solve actual problems versus it being another, you know, meme or a feature that isn't really getting past the proof of concept stage?
Lennox, do you think that Web3 and AI exist together, or can we have one? Will we have one without the other?
I mean, they're two distinctively, you know, different technologies, but they're complementary. And this is something I think about quite a bit. Obviously, right now, a lot of technology executives across the world are focused on generative AI use cases. But I think what we will find, and again, it's my just personal opinion, as generative AI use cases evolve and continue to get an increase in adoption, the need for, you know, provenance and just authenticity, improving authenticity, is going to increase, right? With deep fakes and just, you know, so much data out there generated by artificial intelligence, being able to separate what's created, what's authentic and created by a human versus what's been spun up by an AI is going to be crucial. And it just so happens we have this solution called the blockchain that serves that exact purpose. So that's the intersection that I'm excited about. All the stuff going on with the zero knowledge proof, you know, all that work, I think is going to be game changing as AI adoption increases, just because of just the sheer volume of like data and content that's going to be generated by AI, and our need to determine what is real, what's authentic, and what's fake. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I double click on that, because I think that's such a key point, right? We're already probably are in this kind of post-truth, you know, society, right, where the train has left the station. And I think origin attribution is probably the key thing that needs to happen going forward. It's a big focus of ours. I think it's a big focus, should be a big focus of anyone in the technology side of this industry, around how, you know, these key concepts of provenance, origin attribution, you know, contemporaneous, you know, attribution of when something happens. You know, I was talking with Birgit earlier about, you know, how do I prove to you that I sent you the email versus somebody else? right? We're shifting the idea, you know, how do we deal with spoofing and phishing and whale fishing and all of these other issues that are coming up now. And I think the fundamental piece is that we have to shift from a implied trust to an implied don't trust and, you know, verify kind of thing, right? Not the old Ronald Reagan saying, but actually being able to contemporaneously attribute the origin of something. And I think with deepfakes and, you know, just watch next year, right, through the election cycle. You're gonna hear both of the candidates saying something that you would think that the other would say, and it's gonna be a fake, and we've already seen it, right? But it's going to rise to the level of an epidemic, and I think it's going to require all of us to rethink what is trust, you know?
I love that. Oh, that gets me so excited. You know, earlier, Lennox, you were talking about hype, and we've all talked, I think some of us are pretty keenly aware of the market ebbs and flows. If you purchased an NFT or own an NFT, can you raise your hand? I'm just curious how many of us are NFT aficionados. So the question is, you know, when we talk about hype, right, there has to be an amount of hype. And I think when you come into something new, it's impossible not to get hyped up. Right, so now that we're moving into something else, how do you separate hype from what's real, right? Especially with your with your enterprise facing companies, right? Like, how are we figuring out this is hype, this is temporary versus what's gonna be long lasting?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. And first principles thinking would suggest that you just go backwards and figure out, okay, what problems are we actually trying to solve with this set of technologies, right? Whether it's blockchain, generative AI. The thing that happened these last few years with NFT specifically, the hype was speculators realizing that there was opportunities to create value, right, off of mispricing of these assets and whatnot on these exchanges. And as that, network effect went into play, more and more people started jumping on that train because they wanted to make a quick buck. It was never about the actual utility of NFTs. It was never about what you can actually do with it. It was just purely speculation around potential gain, monetary gain, which is something that enterprises were never a part of, really, except for a few here and there that tried to drop, NFT collections that just kind of tanked. But for the most part, I would say enterprises are looking at it from what problems does this solve? And I think you can extend that same way of thinking to generative AI. What problems do we have today that this AI can solve? So that has nothing to do with what other people are saying, hype this and hype that. It's just, if it took me 3 hours to do a thing before, but now by leveraging these large language models, it takes me 15 minutes. The proof is in the pudding. So that's how I'm wired to think, is just technology is a tool, right? It's supposed to solve problems. So let's go back to the actual problems that we wanted to solve, and we just sidestep all this hype because we know exactly what we're trying to do there. Hopefully that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was just at the store the other day and I saw Coca-Cola made by AI. Mm-hmm. And it, you drink it, you turn into a robot, but here I am. It tasted great, but the question is then, for all of us that are either in startups or looking for the future, how do we know where we should be directing our attention with AI? Where should we be learning? What apps should we be looking into, or any cautionary tales?
Well, I'll give a personal example. I was talking about this earlier. I was over the summer and early last month in September, I was fighting a virus. Went on for weeks, and eventually I ended up in the hospital in University of Washington, and got to spend 5 days in the hospital, which I've never done in my life, and I don't recommend it. But thank God I was there. Right. What I will say about things like AI is, in a teaching hospital, it's such an amazing place of learning and so on. But you see the rounds, the actual doctors come for about 10 minutes a day in the morning, and then they're gone until the next day, right? So when you have technology that's great on your phone and you have all of these lab results coming in, and you're getting it on your My Chart before,
Right.
23 hours before the next doctor visits. When you have something like ChatGPT and you can say, what does this antibody mean and this value for an antibody mean, you can, and it's not this whole WebMD, scare the shit out of you kind of thing, excuse my language. It's actually providing clarity and comfort for the rest of that day, that you know what this test result means, and maybe that you have some less amount of fear of what's going on, that you don't know what is going on because the test result came back, and you can utilize this amazing amount of knowledge in your pocket or on your phone in your bed with an IV in your arm, and it provides a level of comfort. That's an example for me that really grounded the potential and utility of AI in the way that we think of it. And we're just scratching the surface of AI, right? We're all talking about generative AI and large language models, and really it's just pattern matching of what the next logical word is, right? But when we get into spatial AI, when we get into other forms of AI, that's when I think we get into really world-changing things. And if I could just go back to the whole idea of NFTs for a second as well. I said this yesterday at the WTIA panel. In our industry, Web3, let's call it, we are the worst at naming things, right? NFT, non-fungible token, who cares, right? Why do we make things more complex? Why don't we say it's a digital object? Why don't we say it's a digital twin? We've played around with all of these things, but we make things overly complex so people lose the idea of what it could be. An NFT is a piece of data. It could be a real digital asset. It could be the functional value of a 200-year-old cedar tree out there versus the linear board foot value of it, right? So I think these things that we do in this industry have to evolve, and we have to, granted, I love the idea of switching the L and the D and all this stuff, hodl versus hold, and build versus biddle, and all these things. But we're maturing as an industry, and I think some of that in even the way that we name things and describe things has to mature and evolve as well. Because I think, frankly, we're at the point now where some of that stuff started to hold us back.
Interesting. And are you all better now?
I am on my way.
Okay.
4 weeks ago I couldn't walk and I couldn't use a fork, and today I
Oh my goodness.
ditched the walker and the cane, and Arry thankfully offered to drive me over here, and my wife is leaving for the Middle East tonight, so I have some family obligations that I have to do a little bit later. But I don't say any of that for thank you, I appreciate it, but the reason I mentioned my situation is it really grounds the idea of what technology can do for a real person suffering a real problem. And particularly when, nurses are who take care of you, right? When you're in the hospital, doctors come by and they opine, and when you have something they don't see very often, you get a whole gaggle of doctors to come in, right? And they're all like, oh, look at his eyes, look how they're not working, and all these things, right? But then they leave, and so thank God for ChatGPT. Thank God for the things that we see that are coming, and evolving so quickly, for everyday people.
Right. And that you had an awareness of those tools.
Yeah, and I've got a bulldog of a wife who's, wants to know everything about anything that affects her family. So while I was just saying, no, I don't care. Let's just wait for the doctor. She's like, So
She should be.
yeah. So.
We're gonna wrap up here in just a little bit, but Lennox, did you wanna talk a little bit about, AI hype and what this is? I don't know, I think I just really wanna know, you're a person that has a startup, you have some amazing personal interests, you're a community person, and you work for a well-known enterprise. So when we're talking about AI and new apps and all the hype and all the excitement and the marketing, where do you land with that?
Like everyone else, I'm trying to sift through the sea of articles that talk about the next best AI tool that you have to incorporate into your business, or else you're gonna fall behind. The thing that excites me is with this, right, we're seeing use cases, we're seeing tools that solve problems. Hey, you wanna get a transcript from your podcast episode that you filmed and use that content and chop it up and do all kinds of stuff for different platforms. Oh, we got an AI tool that can do that. So I had started a podcast not too long ago, and I found a tool that you just plug a video in and it generates all kinds of content from that. And usually I would have had to hire an editor and all kinds of stuff to do that. And now for $7 a month, I can subscribe to this tool that does all this cool stuff for me. And that's just one isolated use case. There's just going to be a rapid evolution of those types of things until we start to see more transformational use cases. For example, the intersection of healthcare and AI. I'm super excited about that because the world as we know it is going to change once this artificial intelligence is being applied to, I don't know, cure cancer or whatever it is. I do think we are on a path where some of those things can become reality. So I don't think it's hype, right? It took a long time for AI to get its ChatGPT moment, right? But we've been working, the world as a collective, we've been working towards this for a long time. But we had ChatGPT, right? That brought this thing mainstream. Like the next 3 to 5 years are going to be insane. And I'm just strapping in and going along for the ride. But I would say just going back to the problems, like you said, with your health, being able to look at something that is a pain point for you personally or corporately, and identifying how these large language models and different variations of AI can actually jump in to help solve that or provide solutions. But yeah, I'm just excited for all the next few years.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's called
Plug
the
it.
No Answers Podcast. It's a show where we ask really deep, thought-provoking questions of ourselves in the hopes that our listeners learn more or find answers to questions they didn't even know they had. Everything from technology, innovation, culture, faith, you name it. So, and then AI has been clutch in helping edit those episodes and stuff. So.
Well, so before we wrap up then, so let's give everyone a takeaway. What do you think, what do you want the group here today to take away from our little chat? Or, maybe tell us one of your tricks or tips on how to identify something that's a good tool to use.
Key takeaway for me, and I'm terrible at tools because I'm always behind everybody else on what the next cool tool to use is, but one of the keys to me, and you're going to hear it over and over again, focus on the problem, right? The problem is what matters. The technology or the feature functionality or whose tech you're using and so on, those are great details, but what is the problem that's being solved? How can we use AI to build earthquake resistant buildings? As I said, my wife's going to the Middle East. She's going to Eastern Turkey. To Gaziantep, the place that completely got leveled by an earthquake earlier this year. How can we use AI to build better buildings? We can. It's there, right? How can we use AI to help 20 million people around the world who literally don't have a national identity because they're a refugee or that they don't exist in the eyes of any nation? How can we help them get basic things like healthcare and education and even be able to function in a societal system? We can do that through Web3 and decentralized identity and so on. So how can we look at the world's biggest problems, take technology, and that be the lever to go and solve them, right? I think that's the use of technology. NFTs and memes and these things are great, but how do we fix things? How do we fix the overconsumption that we have on the planet or these things? And how can we use technology to do that? So my takeaway and ask of everyone is to say, how can your technology, how can your focus in this area solve a problem?
Alex, what's everyone's takeaway today?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. So I'm a big advocate for the democratization of all of these technologies. I'd imagine not everyone in here considers themselves super technical, but one thing I've noticed is when a new thing like AI comes on, there's a good chunk of people, right, that we typically call the elite majority that wait to adopt because they're just overwhelmed or for whatever reason, they just choose not to engage. My push or ask of everyone would be to engage, especially with AI, because the ship has sailed, right? We know the world's about to change. And as an individual or as an enterprise or a startup, you have to decide how you're going to take this, how are you going to leverage the opportunities that are in front of you, like with this technology. I would say just figuring out how to write better prompts is a good bite-sized takeaway for people, because we talk about, oh, the people that are gonna weather this storm are the ones that are able to work alongside AI, right? Talk about, oh, this job's gonna be replaced by AI, this job's gonna be replaced by AI. That's not actually a thing, in my opinion. It's just the way people work. As an engineer, you will no longer be writing thousands of lines of code, right? A lot of times you're gonna have AI work with it, and it's gonna be based on how you formulate prompts and stuff like that. But not just for engineers. Anyone, even an artist, someone that's creating images for fill in the blank use case. I think if everyone gets really good at crafting these prompts, i.e. just working with the AI, we're all just as a collective in a better position to take advantage of all of the unlocks that are coming in the next half decade. So, yeah.
Thank you for both of your time today.
Stuck inside.